welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 10 of the card making countdown, where I'm sharing a new card making idea with you every day for 14 days. Today we're making this fun flower vase card. The vase pops out and is really dimensional, but it folds flat for postage. The beautiful flowers on top are a lovely extra touch, and this is a great card for using up your pattern paper. Then for the pre-made designs, I'll give my top tips on choosing the perfect images for this effect, and we'll have a look at designing our own. Let's get started. This project is part of the 2026 card making countdown. Download the cut files for free for the first 24 hours after this video goes live, using the links in the video description or by visiting craftwithsarah.com/cards26. After 24 hours, the cut files for this project can be purchased from craftwithsarah.com/cards26 files. Or get the entire card making countdown plus loads of extra bonus files from craftwithsarah.com/cards26 bundle. The download comes in a zip folder. You need to unzip this before uploading the SVG files into your cutting machine software. For instructions on how to do this, visit craftwithsarah.com/help and choose Cricut, Silhouette or Scan and Cut. Within there are dedicated help guides on topics such as how to upload SVGs, how to modify them to make custom projects, framing tips, and how to cut cardstock with your type of machine. If you have any questions, email hello@craftwithsarah.com. Now, on with today's project. This is what the design looks like when loaded into Cricut Design Space. It makes an A2 card, which will be 4¼ inches wide and 5½ inches tall. Included in the download folder is a SVG for an envelope template that will perfectly fit the card, but it will fit into pre-made A2 envelopes too. There isn't much you need to change on this before it's ready to cut, but you may find it easier to add some score lines. To do that, ungroup the layers with the ungroup button at the top of the layers panel. Then we'll click and drag to move the base card over to the side, go into shapes and choose a score line. Set that to the height of the card, which is 5½ inches. Select the score line and the base card and press Align Center to put it in the middle. Then, with those two layers still selected, press Attach at the bottom of the layers panel. Attach is what tells the Cricut we want it to do the scoring in that exact place. I've used 2 different colours for the flower pot with the idea that it would be cut from 2 different types of pattern paper, but you could use solid paper if you prefer. The flower pot shapes work best when cut from a lightweight material such as paper rather than card. So if you don't have any pattern papers that are suitable, then very lightweight card will just about work. But if you have coloured paper, for example origami paper or kind of kids craft paper, that would be ideal. You can change them all to the same colour if you want them all the same, so you could drag around all of the vases and change them all so that they're the same. We'll be folding each of these shapes in half. They're fairly easy to fold as they are, but if you want to, you can add a score line down the middle. If you're going to do that, I would delete all of them, including the one that's over here on top of the green, and just keep it so that you've got one. And let's have a look at the size. About 2.7. Add a score line and make it that height. Drag a box around that one and the vase and press Align Center and Attach. And then duplicate it 3 times for your first colour. Duplicate it once more and change the colour of that one. It doesn't really matter what the exact colour is you change it to. You could do it really obvious and make it something entirely different, but then duplicate it so you've got 4 of that one too. So 4 of one colour, 4 of the other, and then you've got 8 in total. And this is now ready to cut. When you're ready to cut, press Make over on the top right and that will separate out all the colours for you. You can change the paper size in the drop down here. I used 6x6 inch pattern paper, which fits the vases really nicely. If you don't add a score line, they'll all fit on one sheet. Because I made that score line slightly taller than my card, it's moved it onto 2, but we can rotate that one round And then on this one, click the 3 dots and move object. Go back to the first of the same colour. And then you'd only need one. So all 4 of those fit on one sheet, and then I could do the same for the other colours. So go and get everything cut out, and then we'll see how to put together our vase cards. We'll start by sticking together the flower vase. I'm using a combination of glue and foam squares. The glue I'm using is Barely Art glue, but I also like Kalal. The reason I like these glues is they don't bend or wrinkle the card like some glues can do. The foam squares I'm using are from Dot & Dab, but any similar ones will do. These are 5 by 5mm and 2mm thick. If yours are bigger, you may need to cut them smaller to fit into the spaces within the flowers. I've laid all the pieces of the flowers one on top the other, following the assembly guide that's included in the download folder to check that I haven't lost any of the little pieces along the way and that I'm happy with all of my colours. However, for putting this together, we want to start at the bottom and work upwards. So let's move some of these bits out the way. We'll start with the 2 green pieces. The darker green bit gets glued onto the lighter one. Then the next piece is the lighter pink one to put on with foam squares. Turn it upside down and get your foam squares to add on the back. Make sure none of the foam goes outside the edge of any of the bits of card, otherwise you'll see it from the front, which we don't want. If you don't want your card to get so thick to go in the envelope, then you could glue all the pieces instead and not use any foam squares. I like to have a little bit of dimension. That foam square is not very sticky. Let's add a different one. There we go. Then I can peel the tops off to reveal the stickiness underneath. And put this in place. And gently drop down. And that way, if I'm not happy with how it's looking, I can pick it up and move it because it won't have stuck yet. That's looking good to me though, so push down to stick. Then next up, we've got the darker piece in pink to go on with glue. Then we've got the middle of that flower and also this one to glue on. Then use a little bit more foam for the white flower, or if you don't want it to be so thick, you can glue it. And also a bit of foam square for the 2 yellow flowers. And those are kind of easier to put straight on the design rather than on the back of the small pieces. And then glue on the bottoms of the yellow flowers and the middle of that front flower. There we go, that's looking beautiful with all of those in there. And now we can look at putting it on the card. Take your base card and fold it in half down the score line. And then take your paper for the front. I've used this subtle heart effect pattern paper and glue it to the front of the card. Oh, although actually I really like what's on the back of that. Oh no, it's one of those situations where both sides of the pattern paper look really nice. My vase is going to be these colours. Oh no, I prefer that actually, with those little kind of biscuit designs. Sorry, subtle hearts, you've been overruled. There we are, and then glue the flowers on top. And this should go into the middle of the card. Nice thing about glue is you can wiggle it about a bit until it's completely dry if you've not quite got it straight. So that's the card. Now we can build up the vase. take all of your pieces and fold them in half so that if you've got a side that you want to be visible, that's the side that you fold over to touch itself. I haven't added a score line down my bits of paper as they're all very thin, so I thought it would be fine to fold without it. So I'm going to fold this over itself, completely in half, as accurate as possible. And give it a good strong fold. You've ended up with this, and then repeat that for all 8 pieces. As I'm going to do it one colour at a time and alternate and put them in a row so that when I'm sticking it together, hopefully I get the pattern right, because when I did my test one, I ended up sticking them in the wrong order and I had 2 of the diagonal line papers next to each other. Okay, that is all of those folded up. Then you choose which side to start with, it doesn't really matter. For some reason, I like starting with the end, this side. It might be because I'm left-handed, so that I'm gluing this way. If you're right-handed, it might be easier to start the other way. Fold your design in on itself and add glue along the top. Then select your next one in your other pattern and glue it on top as accurately as you can line it up, especially around the fold line. So put them back to back and it will open up like this as we go. And then keep going, gluing one at a time until they're all stuck on. If you feel like you get to a point where it's thick enough, especially if you're using cardstock rather than paper, you can stop. You don't have to add all 8 of the shapes on if you don't want to. Be careful when you're doing it that you don't smush the glue out of the edges, because again, when I was testing it, I did that and I ended up then gluing these bits together from where the glue had smushed out, so it didn't open up like it was supposed to. It's always better when I make the mistakes so that I can warn you about them. Okay, that is now all of those stuck together, so it opens up beautifully. You may want to wait for your glue to dry a bit better before you start opening it, but I want to show you. And look, I've glued those bits together. Oh, it just about still opens. So playing it round, getting them to open up before that glue is fully dry is probably a good thing in case you've done the same thing. So that's how it all pops out, and it will fold flat along the middle bit for postage. Okay, so now we can add our vase on here, adding quite a bit of glue, as we've got a lot of heaviness to go on here. Find your middle point, which for me is that one, I think. Maybe it's that one. Nope, it's that one. Okay, so that's all nice and even on that side. I've got 1, 2, 3, and that one is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, maybe I should have done 9 rather than 8. I don't think it'll make much difference. Okay, just vaguely in the middle. Maths has never been my strong suit. We'll open it up, so we'll stick one of each side down on there. Hold those base pieces into position, squidge them up so that they line up with the green. And that is so pretty with all of that dimension, and it will go flat to go in an envelope. It won't quite pop out when it comes out the envelope, but it's sort of fairly self-explanatory when you see it that you just need to fold it out a little bit with your fingers, and then there is the card. And it stands up beautifully. I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's quite simple, really, when you think about it, but so effective. And you're not just limited to flower vases either. You could use the same kind of thing for a whole range of different images. Let's take a look at how to design your own. Here's how to design your own cards with that same pop-out effect using different shapes. You can use SVGs that you upload into Design Space or ones from within Cricut. I'll do that, so let's go into images and we'll search for something simple. I'm going to do a pumpkin. There is actually a similar pumpkin design in the free SVG section on my website, but I'm going to do it for this video just because it's quite a nice shape to do. Under the filters, change it to cut in the operations type, and then we'll probably go for simple under crafting complexity and see what we've got. For these to work, our image that we have needs to be completely symmetrical, so the same on both sides. Most of these are not symmetrical, but that's okay, we can kind of fake it. That one might work. And let's also go for this one to show how it would work with just one colour. So for this one, what we could do, if we look at it, it's kind of separate here. So we could cut that from brown and then have the pumpkin all folded up underneath and do it like that with a little gap, but it will look very strange with that hole. So what we can do is go into shapes, choose a square and drag it down so it's covering roughly half of the shape, and then slice those two layers out from each other and delete. Take the one you've got left and duplicate it, and then we can flip horizontal to make a mirror copy. Drag them up so that they're both just about touching. Drag around both of them and press Align Bottom to make sure they're completely aligned. Then drag them both and press Combine and Weld. We've now made that an exact mirror image on both sides of the pumpkin, but it still looks super weird with that big hole. So we can fix that. I'm going to add a circle as a guide. Duplicate it, put that back to basic cut, and kind of fill in the shape and slice those two out and just keep this one here. I can see now it's not quite lined up right. Let's move it up. Drag a box and press Align Horizontal to put it right in the middle, otherwise we'll end up with it not being symmetrical again. Change it back to a basic cut. And it's still not looking symmetrical actually. Maybe we'll need to do that again. Perhaps I should have filled that in before doing the symmetrical thing. That's okay, we can sort that out again. So just in case it isn't quite symmetrical, drag a box around and do that again. So slice out, duplicate, flip horizontal, line them up so that they're just touching, and align to the bottom, and then combine and weld. Okay, that's better. So now I've got my symmetrical shape with that bit filled in. I would duplicate this for my 8 times. You could maybe do 2 different shades of orange or 2 different types of pattern paper still if you want to make it similar to the vase. And then you would cut this out from brown and stick that over the top. So instead of having all the flowers like in the vase card, we would have just that top bit. If your original image is just one colour to begin with, then what we can do is work out what you want to be at the bottom. For instance, this one, I could stick it as all green and then have a pumpkin to go on top. It's going to be a little bit trickier to figure this one out, but we can do it. I could have picked easier images that are already symmetrical or that don't need any work, but because they'd be a lot harder to find the perfect doesn't need any work image, I wanted to show a couple of examples where we're playing about with it and changing it, which is why I'm going into that detail here, in case you're wondering about that. Okay, so this time I would stick my green on. A bit like the green leaf layers of the vase, they had the shape of the vase already on, and then build up my orange pumpkin on top, but it isn't symmetrical at the minute. I think this time I'll cut off this side of the pumpkin because I prefer how this side looks. So let's go to there. I don't want to cover up the stalk at this point. So I'll put two of those squares together, weld them together, then slice that out of the green and delete. Then we can take off the stalk. Okay, it's looking a little messy at the minute. We'll tidy up the bottom. Now I'm slicing it off so that we've ended up with a sort of pretty stalk. There we go, and then there's our pumpkin. And we'll duplicate, flip horizontal, roughly line it up, and then go align bottom. And we want to just fill in that space too. Weld them. And then weld a circle on. Okay, we've now got a nice pumpkin shape here and the stalk to go on top. Let's duplicate the one we've done that's all symmetrical and make that orange, and then these two combine and weld. So then this would be my bottom bit that I would glue on, and then it would have all 8 of the pumpkin shapes built up on top. So it's a couple of different ways of doing it. One where your base is all one colour, and one where your base is kind of separate and you've got nothing underneath your fold up shapes. Once you've got that, then you can build up the card. So perhaps we could do a square card this time. Let's make it 5 by 5 inches. So that would be 10 inches wide, 5 inches tall, and go white for now. I'll add a score line down the middle, just like we did on the vase card at the beginning, and align that centrally and attach. And now I know what I've got for my pumpkin. When you're resizing, you need to make sure you resize everything together so that it all stays in proportion. You can go arrange forward to make sure it appears above your card. And that's quite a nice size to be on the front of my card. Move them under the pumpkins. So this is kind of what it would end up looking like, although obviously it would be all 3D where we've got all the things going there. And then you can play about adding extra shapes or embellishments if you want to. So we could perhaps add another square that's 4.75 inches to go on the front. Put that underneath there, and that could be green. And then if I cut my pumpkin from orange, I would have 4 of that one colour, and then 4 maybe in a brighter or lighter orange. And then make another square a little bit smaller again, go for 4.5 and cut this from some kind of fall or pumpkin or coffee or something themed pattern paper to go on the top like that. So then my card would be white underneath, green, a lovely pattern here, and then the pumpkin with the pop out bits in my 2 different shades of orange. And there we go, that's how you can create custom pop-out cards in that same style using images that you find either in Design Space or ones that you upload that you've downloaded online. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make these pop-out card front designs. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more card making and Cricut videos. I hope to see you tomorrow for day 11 of the card making countdown, but for now, thank you so much for watching. Bye!